We're here at Claude Riley's office in downtown Muleshoe, and Claude is celebrating this month his 90th birthday. Claude Riley, what is your birthday?
March 25th.
March the 25th. And where were you born?
I was born in northern New Mexico in a log house.
Really?
On a ranch in 1920.
1920, 90 years ago this month. Now, Claude, where was that log house?
It was about 25 miles northeast of Klein's Corner.
Northeast of Klein's Corner.
Klein's Corner is just about 50 miles before you get to Albuquerque.
Right on I-40 today. Right. Of course, then there wasn't an I-40. Now, who were your parents?
My parents was Albert J. and Blanche Riley. Blanche Bedford Riley.
And now, how long did you live there in New Mexico before you came to Texas?
Well, I lived most of the time in New Mexico until we moved to Beulah in 32.
In 32, you moved to Beulah. Well, now, do you know why your family came to Beulah?
Yes, it was during the Depression, and we were looking for work. And we pulled dryland cotton and headed maize and anything we could find to do to live.
And now, what did your dad do in New Mexico?
Well, he was a rancher most of the time. Yeah.
And did you have brothers and sisters?
I did. I had 2 sisters and 3 brothers.
And are any of them still living?
No, I'm the last one.
Now, did any of them stay here in Bailey County?
No, none of them ever lived here. In fact, the business, I never had a relative watch me play football.
Is that right? Now, Claude, when you came here, well, then were you the only child still at home?
Yes, I was.
So you were the youngest of the children?
Right, yeah.
So there were how many children in the family?
It was, let's see, 3 brothers and 6 of us.
6 of you in the family. Yeah. So you went to school at Beulah.
I did.
And what grade did you start in?
I think I was in 4th grade down there, 4th and 5th maybe.
Did you meet anybody down there at Beulah that you still know today?
I did, yes I did.
Who was that?
Well, Evelyn Nichols, my wife.
When you first saw her, what do you remember?
Well, she's much younger than me. I thought she was just a child. She's 8 years younger than I am. And then there's a lot of people from down there. A lot of them are dead by now. Medford Cyphers is one of them.
He went on over to Clovis.
Yeah, he moved.
Shoe store.
Yeah, he lives in Dallas now, I think, and he's retired. And he contacts some of us. He's a good letter writer. And my sister-in-law, Doris Reeves, gets letters from him all the time.
Does she? Where does Doris live?
Doris lives in Houston.
In Houston. Now, so did you stay out in Beulah?
We did. We lived in a trailer house, and I guess you'd say we camped down there a couple of years and worked for one fellow named Clarence Jackson and Mr. Locker, Morgan's dad, and a family named Archer.
And so when did you come to Muleshoe?
In the fall of 33, I believe it was.
And so then you went to school here in Muleshoe, I guess.
I guess I did. Maybe I think I'm mistaken. I think it's 34.
The fall of 34.
Right.
You came to school.
Yes, ma'am.
So what grade would you have been in by then?
I guess I was in about 6th grade.
And where was the schoolhouse located?
The school was right where the Mary DeShazo is now. It's the old building that we tore down a few years ago and built a new Mary DeShazo in the 60s. I happened to be on the school board when that happened.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, now, wasn't John Smith on that same school board?
He sure was. And we were both thought it was great that we get to tear our school down.
And were you and John in school at the same time?
We were. John. I met John the year I came here, and we've been almost lifelong friends.
And so, were you in the same grade, you and John?
Yes, we were.
You were, isn't that something?
Yeah.
And so, I guess John's going to turn 90 or already has.
He's 88. He's younger than I am.
He's a little bit younger.
Everybody's younger than I am.
Oh, they are. Now, Claude, listen, I don't know about anybody being any older than you are that are as active as you are. Do you come to the office every day?
I usually do, yes.
And you're up and at 'em early?
Well, I couldn't say that exactly, but we begin to sleep in a little.
You go to McDonald's every day,
Yeah, I
don't
go to McDonald's about 9:15 and meet with a bunch of old guys over there. We chew the fat and tell a few jokes, and sometimes they don't laugh.
And who are some of the men that you have coffee with at McDonald's every morning?
Well, it's R.L. Scott, and Billy Ware, J.C. Gatewood, and Hubert Kidd, and Buddy Buckner. That's about the gist of it.
That's your group. Do you go back in the afternoon?
I do. I'll go by there and get my wife a cup of coffee.
Do you?
And if RL's there, I'll take him home.
Well, that's nice of you. So you still drive?
I drive, yeah.
And you feel good?
I do. I feel great, yeah.
You were telling me a few minutes ago you had bypass surgery years ago.
Yeah, in 1989, I had three bypasses, and I've done well ever since.
Feel better now than you did before?
Well, Evelyn has kept me on a good diet, and I've exercised fairly regularly, you know.
Now, what are these doodlings over here on this calendar?
This? That's where I keep up with my meals at senior citizens and my exercise program.
I see. So you really do exercise. I guess this is your exercise.
I ride this bike every other day, and then I swing a golf club about 300 times every other day.
And so that probably helps you keep in good health.
Well, it maybe I guess we can give him credit for that, because, you know, if I didn't do it, well, I'd probably get to where I couldn't walk, and probably be good if I couldn't talk.
Now, Claude, and your mind is just exceptionally good, and your memory is better even than mine. Now, back when you came to Muleshoe and went to school in that old building where Mary DeShazo is now, was the whole school system there on that block? Or
It was, yes. Grade school was in the east building and high school in the west building.
Any other friends besides John Smith that stayed here and you were lifelong friends?
Oh, yeah. Betty Oliver, and Betty McAdams Oliver, and Billy Joanne Dameron Smith, Leela Mae Barron, Mary Dennis, Mary Hahn, to just name a few of them.
And any teachers that you remember that were really a part of your early life in Muleshoe?
Yeah, my first teacher here was Mrs. Stevens, which was the coach's wife. And then we had a man teacher named Howard. Oh, let me, if I can think of it in a minute. But anyway, he was
not Howard Hughes.
No, it wasn't. I can't recall his name right now. And then we had a Mr. Gallman taught in grade school. And then I went to high school and had some good teachers. We had a real good English and literature program up here. We were a little weak in other things, but I went to the University of Texas later and The English and literature is the only thing that I excelled in down there. Everything else came pretty hard. And I only went down there 2 semesters, and the war came along. And then I went to Pearl Harbor and stayed 2 years in construction work and 2 years in the Navy before the war was over.
Now, did you go after Pearl Harbor was bombed?
Yes. I went to Pearl Harbor in early '42, and which was just 2 or 3 months after the bombing, and I helped upright some of the ships that were laying on their sides, and we refloated them, and they went to dry dock somewhere, and some of them were put back in service.
Is that right? I bet that is quite a memory and quite a sight to have seen.
Yes, it was. It was for a country boy that never been out of Bailey County. It was quite a change for me. But I melted down with the natives over there and learned to speak the pidgin English and a few things like that. I had some good friends. I've been blessed with good friends everywhere I ever went. I had a boss that liked me and gave me a lot of overtime when I worked in Pearl Harbor. And that helped because the biggest wage I'd ever drawn in Muleshoe was $80 a month. And I went to Pearl Harbor and got into the welding trade. And when I went in the Navy, I was making about 10 times that much. But I was fed up with it, so I settled for the Navy.
Now, when you were working here in Muleshoe as a young man, who did you work for?
Well, I worked on Main Street. I worked for Dameron Rug and Taylor Produce and Muleshoe Coffee Shop. And my last job, I was bookkeeper for the electric company here. It was called Eastern New Mexico and West Texas Utilities.
Is that right?
Under Horace Taylor.
I see. And now, when you were in school, in high school, didn't you enjoy playing football?
Yes, I did until it got too cold. I got to where I was kind of dreaded it getting out in that cold and getting banged around, you know.
And now, it wasn't at a nice football field like Benny Douglas Stadium, was it?
No, we played on an old field over across the railroad tracks down by King's big warehouses called Cobb Park.
Now, why was it called Cobb Park?
Well, the best I can learn on that is that they set up, sometimes the people have set up machines over there and shell corn and throw the cobs out. And they were cobs laying everywhere and rocks and broken glass and goat heads. And we played on that kind of field, but we survived it.
So I guess you had to have tough knees and head and elbows and hands.
Well, you had to get to bleeding a little bit before you get mad enough to play.
I guess so. Did the school own that field?
Was what?
Did the school own the field?
I don't really know. I think it was just a public, private place, or maybe it belonged to the ranch that owned that land at that time, but they let us use it. I don't know.
Now, was it right next to the railroad track?
No, it's about maybe 100, 150 yards north of the railroad track.
So you'd go across the railroad track from the crossroads like you were going to Earth, right, and turn there where today you'd say Leal's Tortilla Factory.
Yeah.
Go in front of that and keep going on down beside the Old King.
Yeah. And then make a little jog to the left over there. And we played baseball on that old field in the summertime. Had outdoor teams that, they used to call them
outsiders or something?
Yeah, independent teams. And they'd gather up players from Lariat and Progress, Sudan, Beulah, anywhere to play for Muleshoe. And I remember one time we played the Lubbock Hubbers, which was a black baseball team from Lubbock, and that was quite a deal.
Now, who were some of your baseball buddies?
Oh, Don Moore and his dad, Nudie Moore, and Lefty Mike Williams, and let's see, some of the boys from Lariat, those, I can't recall their names, but Strother Walker was another one, and Roland Matesian.
And so now, Wiltsey wasn't old enough at that time to play with the team?
No, he wasn't at that time.
Don is his older brother.
Yeah, Don went on and played pro baseball, and so did Wiltsey.
And so now, in school, though, when you were playing football, who was your coach?
Roy Stevens.
Roy Stevens. And he was here for a number of years, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Yes, and he left here and later became superintendent over at Amherst. And he died a couple of years ago in Littlefield at about 102.
My goodness. I knew he had been back here to a reunion you all had, and I got to meet him and interview him. Now, who were some of the guys that played on that? Well, it wasn't Mules, a football team, was it? It was the Yellow Jackets. And what year did you start playing football?
Well, I started the year I was a freshman, I guess, 37, 8, and 9, and I see in 38 was the year we went through undefeated. We beat everybody that we played, and they don't let us go to about by district then, and we won everything. And Coach Stevens always called it his state championship team, but we really didn't go that far.
But they didn't have a state in those days.
They stopped it at by district, I believe it was.
And so who was on that team?
Well, we had Benny Taylor and two Chitwood brothers, Alvin and Dee.
Now that's Dick Chitwood's daddy.
Yeah, right.
Uncle.
Alvin was Dee's uncle. We had an uncle and a nephew playing.
Oh, an uncle. Okay, Dick's great uncle then. Dee's uncle.
It'd be it was Dee's uncle and me. This boy's great uncle here now. Yeah, and we had Joe Bill Alsop and Wiley Baker, and
that was Jack's brother.
And Woody Lambert and Mac Lee, and two Prescott boys, Frank and Neil Prescott, lived out north of town. And just a lot of guys like that.
Now, what position did you play?
I was quarterback after the first year. And I always wanted to play running back, but he made me play quarterback. We didn't have a whole lot of people out in those days. Sometimes we didn't have but 18 players out. We didn't have enough for two teams to scrimmage. But we got by somehow.
Now, so here in Muleshoe, what was your daddy? Who was he working for?
Well, he was pretty well retired when we moved. He was getting old. He was kind of crippled from his cowboy days, and he trucked quite a bit in the summertime and kind of independent operations and things. But he was an old construction man. He could get a job nearly anywhere working on building highways and things. In his younger days, he had a big herd of mules, teams of mules, and he did levee work down in central Texas and levees and built up railroad dumps, build a railroad through the country down around central Texas, around Lomita and then through there. That's where they lived before they moved to New Mexico, where I was born.
Now, what were some of the businesses when you were first here and growing up that you remember in Muleshoe?
Well, it was Hennington Grocery Company and Gilbreth. And Jack King had a grocery store.
Yeah, Gilbreth, did they have a grocery?
They did, yeah.
Is that Rufus's parents?
Yes, it was. And Rufus got married while I was working for him.
Really?
And they were good people. And Clyde Taylor had a produce house here, ice, and bought cream and eggs. And I carried cream cans and eggs in from lots of farmers that brought them down. That was a way of life back then. A lot of them bought groceries with that cream and egg money, and it kept them going out on the farm when things was going pretty tough back during that Depression.
So now, how did you start dating Evelyn? You said you really met her out in Beulah when you were going to school out there and you moved there as a child. But, of course, she was younger. So how did you start dating Evelyn, and when was that?
That's pretty well as I've lost that information in my mind. It's been so long. And now we really got acquainted in Amarillo. I was up there working for a company that I helped start here, the old irrigation supply business.
Was that with Martin Oliver?
Yeah, Martin Oliver and Hud Crawford. And I was up there working, and she was working up there, and I happened to be staying in a hotel right across the street from where she worked. And I made a point to get acquainted with her, and the rest is history.
And now, where was Evelyn working?
She was working for an electrical company up there. I've forgotten the name of it, but...
Well, now, was this before you went to Pearl Harbor or after?
Oh, it was after, yeah.
After you'd come back from... Were you there about 4 years?
Yes. Evelyn and I didn't get married till 1948.
1948. You married here in Muleshoe?
Yes, ma'am. No, well, we got married in Amarillo.
In Amarillo.
She had a sister who lived up there, and we...
Which one was that?
That was Florence Gilly.
Yes.
Her husband was a basketball coach up there, and we went up there and got married. And we came back to work, back home, went to work.
So your first home after you married Evelyn Nichols was here in Muleshoe?
Yes, it was.
And her parents were who?
Guy and Bertie Nichols.
Now, what did they do out at Beulah?
At Beulah, he ran a cotton gin.
And then wonder when the Nichols came up here to Muleshoe.
Well, let's see. I don't know exactly, but they lived out west town when I got back here from the service in 47. And a guy on the farm out just west of the old Blondie Puckett store on the highway there. And that's where they were when we got married.
And so he was always a cotton ginner.
His dad, it was in their blood. His dad was a cotton ginner, and all of his brothers were connected to cotton somehow.
Right.
And that's why we call Evelyn Cotton.
Now, she grew up in a large family. How many were there?
Well, let's see. There was 2 boys, Ed and J.A., and then 5 girls.
And now, living in Evelyn's family, how many are still living?
2 sisters and no brothers. Her sister, Nana Teller, lives at Beulah, and her other sister, Doris Reeves, lives in Houston.
And so when you all first married, what did you do here in Muleshoe?
Well, I'd already gone in business with Hud Crawford and Martin Oliver.
You'd already started.
Yeah, we started.
Was it called irrigation supply?
That's right, it was, yes.
And so how long did you stay with them?
Well, we split up in 3 or 4 years, and everybody went out on their own, and I still stayed in the drilling business, and Hud and Martin were still in it too, but we were competitors then. But we got along with them. Martin and I were friends from school. He played a little football with us, and we ran track. And even though we were competitors, we got together every Saturday night and had Dr. Pepper and ice cream floats.
Frosted Dr. Pepper. Sounds good to me.
It was good.
Yeah. So, how'd you start that tradition? Saturday night ice cream float.
Well, he liked it, and I did too, so it's hard to beat.
Yeah, that's right. What about? We were talking about those days that you were on the Yellow Jackets football team. How many now generations of your family have been quarterbacks for Muleshoe football teams?
Well, myself and my son Mike and his two boys have all been quarterbacks.
Garrett and Lincoln.
Garrett.
Or Lincoln and Garrett.
Lincoln and Garrett, yeah. So we've got a little tradition going there. Lincoln recently moved to East Carolina University over in North Carolina, and he told me the other day that he had a good team, but he needed a quarterback, and I volunteered to come out of retirement, but I didn't get it hired.
He didn't send anybody out to pick you up, huh?
No, he needs a guy 6'3", 5'6".
Now, what about now Lincoln, as you just said, is in North Carolina. What about Garrett?
Garrett's going to college down at Stephen F. Austin and Nacogdoches. And he's going to try to play football down there in spring training, right?
See, what is the name of Nacogdoches? I know it. It's a real unusual. They're lumberjacks, right? Lumberjacks.
Are they?
Yeah, he's a lumberjack.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, the team where Lincoln is over in North Carolina is the Pirates.
Yes.
And
we'll be watching them close.
right, and they just about past year they put that Pirate name on Coach Leach. And it's kind of ironic that he worked for a Pirate and now he has one.
And McNeil is there too.
Right.
So that looks good. So when Mike, your son, was quarterback for the Mules, did they have a successful season?
They had that was a time when they put us up in 3A and we played big schools like Perryton and some of those big schools up north, and we had a bad year or two or three there. Especially when Joe Pat was in high school.
That's your other son.
Yes, he's our oldest son.
Now, did he play football too?
Yeah, he did. He played under Coach Stafford that was here back then, and they were kind of short-handed, kind of like we were back in the 30s. They had a lot of trouble getting kids to come out, and sometimes they didn't have enough for two teams to scrimmage. That they worked hard and they hung in there and weathered it, but we did lose some real tough games, and sometimes they beat us 75-0 or something like that, which was pretty disheartening.
Sure. But now Lincoln and Garrett both had successful high school quarterback careers with the Mules.
They did, yes. With Coach Woods, we've had some great teams here.
And, of course, Lincoln went on he walked on at Tech.
Right.
And they didn't know him from diddly squat, did they?
Well, no, and Coach Leach somehow or another recognized his ability to read plays and things, and made him a student coach for a year or two, and then when he graduated, he hired him.
And he went on as a graduate assistant and then right on to the coaching staff. Right. And, boy, that was exciting last January.
Yeah, he skipped the preliminaries like coaching in junior high and high school, working up. We can attribute some of that to luck, but he had a lot of ability too, I guess.
Talent.
Yes, and we're proud of him.
I know you are. I bet you watched that Alamo game that he was calling the play.
Sure did, you bet.
You couldn't have been pulled away from the TV that night.
Yeah, no, it was sure exciting.
Now, but you've got other grandchildren too, and they all went to school here from time to time, didn't they?
Well, most of them, yeah. We've got Joe Pat's got two children, and they both went to school here. They both moved out to Madera, California, and graduated out there, but they were students here.
Now, where does Joe Pat Riley, your other son, live now?
He lives in Irving.
Irving.
Yeah, he works for this Azteca company out here. He's in the head office there in Irving, and he did for a while travel a lot for him, but here lately they've cut down on the travel for some reason, and he doesn't have to fly as much as he did. For a while he went to Europe 8 or 10, 12 times a year.
Really?
And we worried about all that flying over that ocean, you know.
Yeah.
And he came out of it so far all right.
Well, that sounds good. Now, his children, who are your grandchildren, who are they?
Well, Allie Riley is his only son, the youngest, and his daughter is Burnley Jacklovich, and she teaches at A&M now.
Now, what does Burnley exactly do at A&M?
Well, she's she's a genetic engineer, and she works in the agricultural end of it, helping breed up new strains of different crops. Is about all I know about it.
Well, and also, before she came to College Station, wasn't she in Colorado? Yeah. And in on the ground floor of sort of working out the DNA and discovering how that works?
Yes, she did. She graduated, got her master's and PhD from Colorado University at Boulder, and then she went back to California and worked in a laboratory there where her main project was the fruit fly. And she studied that fruit fly for years. I don't know why they picked the fruit fly out. We just call them gnats. But
yes.
Anyway, she's in something different now, and she likes it. She says that some of the things that they experiment with, if it turns out good, it goes on out into the field, and farmers and people benefit from it. You know, better quality products, grain and cotton and what have you, maybe rice and other things.
Now, Allie lives in California, right?
Yes, he does.
Now, what is his profession?
Well, right now he's he's got a real estate license, but he kind of quit that. Right now he's setting up websites for clients to sell whatever they've got to sell on the computer.
Sure. And I would think that would be very good. Where in California does Allie live?
Well, he's in the L.A. area. I don't know. I haven't got his specific address right now. He just got back from a couple of years down in South America trying to sell real estate, seaside real estate and things to retirees from the U.S. that want to come down there and get away from all of this. And it wasn't...
You don't want to go down there, do you, Claude?
I don't want to go to Mexico. Right now, anyway.
Absolutely.
But he had some good experiences down there, but financially it didn't work out too well for him. So he's into something now that's really exciting.
Good, and that's a going area or industry.
And the highlight of it is that during all this depression and thing, we've got people without jobs. He found a spot making a pretty good living.
That's good.
And
you've got some great grandchildren.
Yeah, we've got 2 great grandchildren. Little girl Chloe is 5 years old, and the little boy is Lim, Liam. He's 3 years old, and they were here the day before yesterday and spent 2 or 3 days with us. And they, of course, since they're ours, I guess they're outstanding.
Yes, of course. Now, they're Burnley's little girls, right?
They're her children, yes.
And so you've got 2 sons, and you've got 4 grandchildren and 2 great-granddaughters.
That is right.
That is great. And I think Burnley and Allie and Joe Pat and the little girls were all here to help you celebrate that 90th birthday.
They were. Everybody was here but Mike. He had to be out of town. And I also had two nephews, one from California and one from Albuquerque that came.
What are their names?
One of them John Riley and the other one is Gene Riley.
Oh, nice.
They're sons of one of my brothers. And they were a lot of fun.
Well, you know, we just sort of skipped over Mike in Maryland, and I didn't mean to do that. They live right here in Muleshoe, and knowing that I knew that, I don't know why I took that for granted. Everybody would, but tell us what Mike does.
Mike runs a central compress at Sudan.
He's got that cotton in his blood.
Yeah, he is forced on him, but he...
It's okay. Now, you were talking about when you played football. None of your family ever got to see you.
They never went to the trouble. Well, my dad and mother were old, and there wasn't any of the rest of my family around, you know. And when someone would be here, it wouldn't necessarily be football season.
But you have been to a lot of children and grandchildren's football games and other activities to support them over the years.
Yes, especially Mike's two boys. You know, we never missed a game with them.
And I know that was fun.
Yeah, we miss it.
Now, you'll have to go to North Carolina.
Well, that's a long way to ride a bicycle.
Well, listen, we'll get some mules together and get a wagon, and we'll see, put some change together and maybe get you down there.
Maybe you could start a fund to get me over there.
Yeah. Let me ask you something else. Now, when you were a little bit younger, there was something that you invented, you know, talking about your grandchildren and all their wonderful professions and what they're doing today and your children. Well, you did some pretty wonderful things, too.
Well, I really didn't invent anything. I improved on one. Joe Pat's father-in-law invented a gadget called a supercooler, which goes on the cooling system of an automobile, and it seals the system and gets all the air out of it, and it was quite successful. His first big customer was the Texas Highway Patrol. Every car in the state of Texas had one on it. And when he died in about 1977 in a car wreck, Joe Pat and I bought that company, and
what was the name of the company?
Supercooling Systems.
Supercooling Systems.
Yeah, and we manufactured those things for several years and sold them until the front-wheel drive car came along, and there wasn't room under the hood for one, and that kind of shut us out on it.
Now, where were they actually manufactured?
I made them right here in Muleshoe.
Right here in Muleshoe.
The old Quonset building where we were up there where United's filling.
Right there on 84, candy cornered across from Leal.
Right. Yeah, I owned that for a while. I sold it to United. They built that station there, you know. So I set up shop there and built them mostly by myself.
How many years did you do that?
Oh, about 10 or 15 years, maybe.
About 10 or 15 years. And what years was that?
Well, we bought it out in the late 70s and closed it out maybe in the middle 80s, maybe.
And what was Joe Pat's father-in-law's name who actually invented that?
His name was Allie Holmes.
Allie. Another Allie?
Yeah, Allie's named after him.
And where was he from?
Well, he lived at just this side of Corpus Christi, a little town out there. I can't think of the name of it right now, but he was an automobile dealer, and he noticed that the automobiles down in that hot country had a lot of trouble with their cooling systems, and he set himself to work and perfected this supercooler and got a patent on it. And we kept it. The patent's run out by now, but Everything else is pretty well run out. Some of the big truck companies are building the idea into the cooling system per se when they build it at the factory now. They kind of like the idea, I guess.
Well, now, Claude, you've enjoyed life in Muleshoe.
I sure have. It's been a good life. There's good people here, and it's a good place to raise your kids.
It sure is. And we want to wish you a happy another 90 years. What do you think about that?
How many?
Another 90.
Oh, my gosh.
90 years old. March the 25th, 1920, Claude Riley was born. And he's lived most of those 90 years right here in Muleshoe with his lovely wife, Evelyn. And it's been a good life. And we want to say congratulations to you on your 90th birthday, Claude.
Well, thank you very much. And thanks for having me today.
Oh, it's our pleasure.